Let's see, Amara, are you still around? If you are, you can type in the private chat, even though I see you are in the stream. Probably going to go quickly through your stuff as well. I am, however, getting a bit tired. Normally, do you have a microphone, Amara? Cool, I'll add you to the stream now. Hey, Amara. How are you doing? Let me unmute you. There you go. Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Cool. So, lighting, huh? It's a similar feedback from. Luckily, it tends to be the same feedback for most people, actually. Luckily, but it's the same here as well. You wanna, when I look at your PCs, and I'm guessing, looking at your work, did you go on the CGMA course?
Sorry?
Did you do a CGMA lighting course or any course?
Yeah, I had a course I took a course at CGMA. So
Okay.
this is for a course.
Yeah, again, that's what I noticed. So for me, I think, don't know what feedback. Who did you have in CGMA?
Yes.
Do you know the name of the tutor?
It was Peter Tran.
So I don't know what feedback Peter Tran gave you, but generally you want to avoid these hotspots, especially when there's light nearby. It doesn't really make sense to have hotspots like this. I like that you have a clear focal point. But one of the challenges, because when you use these fluorescent light, they tend to be a little bit diffuse because they are, they're rectangular. And one thing I notice is your shadows are very specific and they are very sharp. So if I point out where I'm looking, I am looking at this shadow here. And that wouldn't happen. That would be very diffused and it would be very specific for the light source itself. So when I look at it, you want to make sure that there's some control of the lights being a little bit bright, and you wouldn't have this one too bright, because my brain goes, why is this one brighter than all of the other lights? So you kind of want to make sure you have a balance there. There's also some material things. It's a very old scene, so it's generally very reflective. But definitely want to control this area a bit. The emissive might be too bright, even though the light is supposed to be bright. But when you have a bright light like this, it would make sense that it's casting more red light. And I don't see a lot of red light. I see this very strong light and it's dominant, and these aren't really doing a lot. So that's also conflict that happens of interest. I do see this one goes down there, I see this one goes down there, but there's also just a balance of color I would work on here as well. I see you have different ideas, that's very cool.
Yeah, in this case, I was trying to make get close to the concept art. So the concepts are in the end, actually.
I mean, this one is pretty nice. It's a bit too bright, but it works. Yeah, I've done the Halo 4 one as well. So you can see on the concept art, it's fading. It doesn't have the same hotspot that you have here. It's more diffuse. It's not as bright. It's kind of fade. So these are one of the details I can notice just there. It has more of a bloom to kind of enhance, and also lens flare. Something I don't know if you went through it, but that's something you could do. The red color here as well is less. It's not as strong as yours, and it goes more subtly down. And that's kind of something to work on as well. But at the same time, you can see it lights a lot. It lights all the way to the character with this red, and then it's balanced with some bright light in the back that kind of again gives this character this blue balance on 1/3 of the image. But in your case, the blue is 2/3 of the image instead of 1/3 of the image. So you could have pushed the red to be a bit more, and then the blue to be a little bit less. I think this one is pretty close, except that it's a bit darker. Your reference is a bit brighter, so in this case it's a bit opposite. You could have gone for darker material. I would have maybe edited the material on top just to respect the reference a little bit. I would probably have cheated with these tubes as well. I would probably have had many of them and just placed them as close to each other as possible whenever possible to get like this long line if possible. Certain things like that I would do. This reference is, these emissive light aren't as bright as this, so this would be a little less bright. Your color is also a bit redder. It would be less desaturated, this one here. And it has a different green color. It has a more saturated, deeper green color here, whilst yours is too desaturated. So the red light will be less saturated, and the green will be more saturated if you were to get this color palette. Make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I think this is your best one so far. I think it's pretty cool, pretty good. Too emissive red, white, blue light. It's very subtle here, so you would probably dim down this version a little bit. Even the red is very subtle here as well, so you would dim down the red a little bit, and again make sure that the red goes long enough, because you can see it does go a bit of this red, so you want to make sure that's balanced but not too much. But that's why I think this one is pretty good. I think this one also is pretty good, but it's too blue and too emissive. Again, you want to dim it down slightly but not too much. So these two I think are pretty good. Yeah.
So okay, I have a really big problem with emissive.
It's okay. It's not a problem. So when you do this scene, you actually have to fix this statue because it's not actually working correctly, even from Epic. So you have to go in and fix it. That's why you have a lot of this darkness that happens in this scene. So you have to go in and fix the occlusion or something, if I remember correctly, to make that actually bright and reflective and work correctly. Very dark, you want to avoid all this pitch darkness. You want to make sure that the light's bouncing in a little bit. But I see you have an interesting approach to color. But again, fire doesn't give the sharp shadows. Here, if you're using say a point light, which is very expensive and you shouldn't be using it, you have to increase the soft radius settings on your lights to get the more diffuse shadow. If you want to cheat, you can also use less quality of the shadow to get a bit more of a softer shadow. So here I would work more on the shadow quality, so it represent and is properly reflected based on the type of light source you have around. Okay.
Okay.
Also in this case, because it's warm light, you wouldn't have white fog, right? The fog and the light kind of works together. So if you had made this bit more warmer, it would have been a bit more better piece.
Okay.
overall, it's interesting to watch, and definitely you're having fun with color and ideas and creativity.
I like to play with colors a lot.
Yeah, it's good. I like what you're doing again, but your images are becoming very flat the minute you use fog and God gray, so you're losing a lot of the quality of your image, and you're kind of overdoing the colors a little bit. So you're having a lot of creativity, which is good. But I think when you're learning lighting, you want to try and learn the stuff I teach my students over at Lighting, but we try and teach students the realistic lighting and kind of respecting the tonal values, the exposure, the emissiveness. So you really have to kind of get a better understanding of those things before you start playing too much with, being creative with colors, because you need to understand the fundamental of lighting first. So it's the same thing here, that everything is orange, so it's also understanding that you don't want everything to be orange, for example, and understanding how do you break it. And torches don't give long shadows, for example, so there's another thing as well, and they don't give sharp shadows either. So there are a lot of things to work on and improve on, but generally, it's obviously a good start, because you're obviously learning from your first course, but generally there's a lot to work on that that should have been pointed out as well, I think, for you. I think if you learn fundamental lighting in the sense of how value works and color works and balance those things, I think eventually it's gonna be fun for you, because then you will be able to express your color and your love for color a bit more easily than you're doing now. It's I'm not saying you can't do it. You can see I do it all the time in my lighting as well. It's using color and shape and reflection and everything is there. Blue color, warm light, rimming, all of these things. It exists in my work too, but you need to understand value first before you can do anything else, and how much is how much. How does a light spread? How does it affect your shadows? And just generally, these things is kind of important to understand when you do this kind of lighting. You can see the same thing here. I'm doing for the inside. It's soft shadow. I don't have a sharp shadows. It's softening, and then it's kind of disappearing. You can see here as well. You have this effect here. And kind of making sure that there's some fill light that's different color. It's hitting, but there's not total blackness. It's not bright either. These are the key things that we want to work on. Make sense?
Yeah, totally. Thanks. I think theory is really important here.
Yeah, no problem. Hopefully that's useful. And thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your time. I appreciate that as well. And I'll just keep moving forward, and just stay on our lightingbot server as well. And there's always help to get there as well. So do you have anything else you want to add?
Not really, but thanks for your feedback. That was really useful right now that I'm starting with this. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you, and have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.